My boss fired me over petty reasons, so I bankrupted her project. I thought I had just landed the opportunity of a lifetime, a job in video content creation for a well-known university, right at the dawn of YouTube becoming a serious tool for branding. It was the early 2010s, and back then, not many people were doing this kind of work. Most businesses still saw video as a luxury, not a necessity. But this university wanted to be ahead of the curve, and I was excited to be part of that. The pay wasn't great, about $2,200 a month, but I figured it was worth it to get my foot in the door. I imagined making sleek educational videos, working with smart people, and building something meaningful. But that dream started to fall apart on my second day. That's when my manager handed me my key performance indicators, or KPI. She wanted 85 videos, each between 3 to 10 minutes, delivered within 52 weeks. And just to be clear, I was the entire team. There was no writer, no editor, no camera crew, just me. One person expected to script, film, cast talent, compose original music, and edit full productions from scratch. It didn't help that the equipment they gave me was basically garbage. The university's computers couldn't handle basic HD rendering, and their cameras looked like they belonged in a museum. So I ended up using my own gear, my own editing software, my own camera. Even for music, they were too cheap to pay for. Royalty-free tracks, so I had to compose background music myself. Every single video was a mountain of work, and I was climbing that mountain alone. Naturally, I went to my manager and told her the KPI was impossible. Not difficult, not challenging. Literally impossible for one person with no budget and a pile of ancient gear. But she just smiled and said, "Don't worry, just try your best. We care more about quality than quantity." That reassurance was all I needed at the time. I believed her. I genuinely thought I could make it work. I figured if I put in the hours, stayed focused, and delivered amazing content, everything would be okay. Looking back now, that was the first sign I was being set up. I just didn't realize it yet. For the first few weeks, things were smooth. My manager was friendly, upbeat, and seemed genuinely supportive. She complimented my work ethic, praised the early drafts I delivered, and even brought me coffee once. Or twice. It felt like I had joined a team that valued creativity. That illusion didn't last long. It all changed one afternoon when she walked past me on my break and saw me lighting a cigarette. She didn't say anything at the time, just kept walking, but I remember the shift in her eyes. Cold, judgy, dismissive, like something had just clicked for her, and I was suddenly less human in her eyes. Later, I casually mentioned it to a colleague during lunch. She winced. "You smoke?" "Oh no." I asked her what she meant, and she just sighed. "Our manager hates smokers. Not like, thinks it's unhealthy, hates them. Like, tries to get them fired. You're probably on her blacklist now." I laughed at first, thinking that was ridiculous. But it wasn't long before the nitpicking started. Suddenly, I was getting emails about the smell of smoke on my clothes, even though I smoked outside, far from the building. She began calling me out for being 5 minutes late despite the fact that I stayed at least 4 extra hours every day without being asked. She complained that I wasn't reachable during my legally mandated breaks. At one point, she even implied I was unreliable, despite me never missing a deadline or failing to deliver a video. Every little thing became a problem. She never said anything outright about the smoking again, but it was clear. I'd been marked. Still, I kept my head down. I wasn't there to win a popularity contest. I just wanted to do the job well. I kept pushing, churning out as many quality videos as I could with limited resources, and even more limited patience for her new behavior. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. She never offered feedback, just silence or criticism, and I began to notice something else. She never actually helped. Not with approvals, not with talent recruitment, not even with uploading finished videos. She was just watching and waiting. And I was starting to feel like the only reason she hired me was to eventually throw me under the bus. The worst part? I still believed in the work. I still believed that if I could just hit the right rhythm, I could prove my worth. But my manager had already made up her mind. 5 months into the job, after grinding day and night to produce high-quality content, I got called into the director's office. I wasn't given a reason, just a "please come upstairs." I walked in to find my manager already there, sitting across from the director with the fakest expression of concern I've ever seen. It was that perfect blend of, "I'm so disappointed," and "I'm secretly thrilled this is happening." My stomach dropped. The director didn't waste any time. "We've reviewed your performance," she said, "and we're disappointed in the progress." She pointed out that we were nearly halfway through the year, and I had only completed 30 of the 85 required videos. The implication was clear. I was failing. I tried to explain. I told them I was working 6 days a week, clocking over 60 hours regularly, that I was using my own gear because theirs was too outdated to handle even 720p rendering, that I was writing, filming, editing, and publishing everything on my own. I reminded them the videos I had produced were outperforming all previous university content. The view counts alone were higher than anything they had on their YouTube channel. And most importantly, I quoted my manager directly, that she had said she cared about quality over quantity. The director's face was blank. My manager sitting next to her had the audacity to smirk. Well, the director said, the KPI is still 85 videos. That's non-negotiable. I felt like I had been slapped. This wasn't about performance. This was about making an example out of me. I wasn't falling short because I was lazy or incompetent. I was falling short because the job was designed to be unwinnable from the start. But the final blow came when I asked, so what's your plan? How do you expect to meet the KPI if I'm gone? That's when my manager, without missing a beat, snorted and said, we'll find a professional production house to finish your work. The way she emphasized professional made it crystal clear. This had been her plan all along. Hire someone cheap, burn them out. Then replace them with a company that could do the work for more money, but with none of the pushback. The director gave her a brief, uncomfortable glance, but still nodded in agreement. Manager will get the job done, she said. And that's when it clicked. If they were going to bring in a production house, they'd have to rely on the vendor database, the one I had built, the one only I had access to. And in that moment, as I stood up and walked out of the room, I wasn't angry. I was inspired. If they wanted a professional production house, I was about to give them one. Just not in the way they expected. Back at my desk, I didn't pack up right away. Instead, I opened the vendor database I had personally compiled. My manager didn't know the industry. She didn't have contacts in production. She hadn't contributed to this list at all. And now she was planning to use it to replace me. So I made a few changes. One by one, I went down the list of production houses. I scrambled the phone numbers, altered the emails, and edited the contact names. Nothing too obvious, just enough to make them unusable. Except one. There was one company I left untouched, and that was very intentional. A close friend of mine worked there. He wasn't some assistant or intern. He was a junior director, someone assigned to lead smaller video projects, but still with real influence. I called him up and laid out my plan. This university's about to panic hire a production team to replace me, I said. And they're going to come to your company because I'm making sure you're the only real contact left in the system. He was stunned for a second. Are you serious? I was, and I wasn't done. I'll walk you through exactly how to pitch them, I said. I'll give you a step-by-step playbook on what they want to hear, the style they expect, even the buzzwords they use internally. You'll be their perfect match. He hesitated. What's in it for you? Standard industry finder's fee, I replied. 15% of whatever the job's worth. He didn't even blink. Done. Within the hour, I was on a conference call with his general manager. Once he heard this contract could be worth high six figures, covering months of work, for a prestigious institution, he greenlit it on the spot and had the paperwork drafted. Over the next few days, I worked with my friend behind the scenes. I fed him exactly what to say, which themes to highlight, how to position his team as the university's salvation, and when the meeting day came, they walked into that pitch room and delivered a masterclass. My former manager and the director were stunned. Here was a team that understood the university's goals, knew the tone of the previous videos, even referenced past stylistic choices like they had done work with the school before. It was seamless. They signed the contract almost immediately. And just like that, the university thought they had landed the perfect replacement, but they had no idea they'd just stepped into my trap. From the outside, it looked like everything was going according to plan for my old manager. The university now had a professional production house with a full team. Producers, directors, editors, gaffers, sound designers, even assistants. No more depending on a one-man crew. They were finally doing it right. But what they didn't realize was just how expensive doing it right really was. Each video produced by my friend's team cost 2 to 3 times my monthly salary. And they were efficient, painfully efficient. With a proper crew, they could finish a polished, high-quality video every 2 to 3 days. That meant 50 videos in just 4 months. What had taken me 5 months to create solo, they were cranking out like clockwork, because they had the tools and manpower. The university was thrilled. My manager, especially. She paraded the success like it had been her idea all along. She took credit for bringing in the new team, talked about how she turned things around, and made herself look like the savior of the entire project. Meanwhile, I was sitting back and enjoying my well-earned payout. See, that 15% finder's fee I negotiated wasn't just some casual handshake agreement. It was contractual, signed and sealed before the pitch even happened. And since the university was paying a high 6-digit amount for the project, my cut added up to about 15 months' worth of my old salary. That was more than a year of pay for a job I no longer had to do. With the money, I booked myself a trip to Bali and used the rest to apply to a prestigious film school overseas. It was the kind of opportunity I never would have had if I'd stayed locked in that toxic job. The same job that had undervalued me, overworked me, and tossed me out like trash the moment I became inconvenient. At the time, I thought that was the end of the story. I'd gotten my revenge. I'd helped my friend get promoted. I'd gotten paid. Case closed. But the universe wasn't quite done yet. A few weeks into my Bali vacation, I was lying on a beach chair with a drink in my hand when my phone buzzed. It was a message from a former coworker, the same one who had warned me months earlier about my manager's hatred for smokers. Her message simply said, You're going to want to hear this. I called her immediately, and what she told me made my entire week. Apparently, the university's upper administration had just discovered the final cost of the content creation project, the one I was fired from. The project had originally been budgeted at about 1.5 years of my salary. That's all they had allocated for video production. But thanks to my manager's brilliant decision to hire a full-blown production house at premium rates, the budget had been exceeded by over 10 times. That's not a typo. 10 times. The chancellor of the university was furious. Nobody had signed off on that level of spending. The director had no idea just how much money had been authorized because my former manager had pushed it through herself, desperate to hit the KPI and prove she didn't need me. She approved every invoice, every production cost, every little add-on and rush fee without blinking. And in doing so, she destroyed the entire budget. The content may have been completed, but the price tag? Catastrophic. The fallout was swift. My former manager was fired. Not quietly. Not after a performance review or with a nice severance. She was dragged into an emergency meeting and dismissed. Her arrogance, her personal vendettas, and her financial recklessness had caught up with her. The director, too, didn't walk away unscathed. While she kept her job, she was humiliated. The chancellor reprimanded her publicly in front of senior staff, questioning how she had allowed such an overrun under her watch. Her reputation took a massive hit, and from what I heard, she never really recovered. All of this happened while I was lounging by the ocean, sipping cocktails and planning my next big move. That's when it hit me. I didn't just get revenge. I flipped the entire power dynamic. They fired me to save money, and I ended up costing them more than they ever imagined. I never imagined that getting fired would be the best thing that ever happened to me. With 15 months worth of salary, sitting comfortably in my bank account, I paid off some debts, booked another vacation, and secured my admission into a top-tier film school abroad. The kind of school I used to dream about but never thought I could afford. Now, thanks to my ex-manager's ego and a perfectly executed plan, it was within reach. As for my friend, the one whose company I funneled the project to, that contract became his golden ticket. His company was so impressed with how he landed the deal and executed the project that they promoted him from junior director to full director within weeks. He later told me that signing that university job elevated his standing across the entire local production scene. It was the biggest win of his career at that point. Meanwhile, back at the university, they were left to clean up the wreckage. The content creation campaign was technically complete, but the cost had shattered every expectation. The budget had exploded, leadership credibility was in shambles, and they were left with no one to blame but themselves. And me? I never had to say a word. No public takedown, no online rant, just quiet, clean revenge that paid out in cash and karma. I had walked in wanting to create great work and left with my dignity, my wallet full, and 2 careers elevated. Mine and my friends. It was poetic, really. They thought I was disposable, replaceable, but they forgot one important thing. You don't mess with the person who built the system, especially when they know how to break it.
The case has been heard. The stories have been told. Now it's your turn to judge. Leave your verdict in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe. The Court of Stories is always in session.